Hi, this is Andrew Park, and this is part 2 of the videos on writing an executive summary. Now remember, an executive summary is a selection of the most compelling findings or points in your document. It is not a kind of vague series of generalizations under which your document can fit. It is sticking to specific, vivid points from your document that are the ones that are the most interesting. And there's a way to test whether your executive summary is too vague. Read your executive summary sentence by sentence, and after each sentence, ask these questions. Could this sentence have been written by a different organization? Or could it have been written about a different study? If the answer is yes, then it means you're not writing specifically enough about your work and your research. Whatever you write in the executive summary should apply to you and only you. Otherwise, it's not giving people specific, vivid information. So let's kind of test this out on something, and I'm going to use the study done by the Fundamental Rights Agency in Europe. They've done these fantastic surveys of LGBTI people in Europe, and they've issued the studies. And I'm being a little unfair because I'm looking on their website and I'm finding this overview, and it's not really an executive summary, but they've said it's an overview. So let's look at it. The first couple sentences are: discrimination in everyday life persists. At work, at school, at cafes, restaurants, bars, and nightclubs, when looking for housing, when accessing healthcare or social services, and in shops. The second sentence: harassment and physical and sexual attacks also remain concerns. Now, yes, the study that they have issued does support these statements, but honestly, the sentence, discrimination in every life persists, that could be from 100 different studies about LGBTI issues in countries in every place in the world. There's almost nothing specific in this sentence that relates only to their study. And so I don't know if I'm learning much about their research by reading this overview. What I actually like is when I looked at their press release, they did do something that is much more like an executive summary and frankly much more informative, which is they listed their, I guess it's 6 or 7 most interesting findings. So the findings are 6 in 10 people in public avoid holding hands with their partner. 2 in 5 respondents say they were harassed in the year before the study. 1 in 5 trans and intersex people were physically or sexually attacked. 1 in 2 LGBT students say someone among their peers or teachers supported LGBTI people. I mean, giving actual findings is making the point in a much more concrete way that I know is through facts that were established through this research project that no other research project can give me. So frankly, rather than the mushy kind of overview language, this press release language is much more specific. Now, let's go back to that overview. The next sentence after those that I read earlier is this: the results also show that LGBTI people across the EU and beyond believe that law and policy, as well as behavior by politicians, public figures, community leaders, and civil society, greatly affects their lives. Now, I can imagine that this sentence is there because the Fundamental Rights Agency is an agency that does work for member states in Europe. And so this talks about the relationship between the activities of member states and the LGBTI community. But honestly, it doesn't really tell me much. It just tells me that law and policy affects people's lives. Again, 100 studies could tell me that exact same thing, and I really have not learned anything new about this research. So I would kind of turn to the findings of the study and lift something from the findings and use that instead. So one thing I find in the findings is that 1/3 of all respondents believe government efforts to combat prejudice are effective, though in 10 member states that number drops below 20%. Now, that's a lot of numbers and a little harder to understand, but frankly, it's a much more vivid picture about what we're talking about. What is the belief of LGBTI people in terms of their faith in government? This gives us the numbers. It indicates there's a difference amongst different countries. It's much more vivid and specific, and frankly, it's fewer words. So it's always nice to be shorter. But let me conclude by saying that I've picked on some of the language here on the FRA website. It's an excellent, excellent study, and their efforts to communicate it are incredible. It's wide dissemination through all kinds of efforts. So I've congratulate them on their study and apologize for picking on them for this one thing, but they've done great work.